Okay, so I'm going to do my first ever avocado dyeing today. And I have done, other flowers, leaves, other eco printing, but never avocado. And I've been saving my skins and pits forever, and I love avocado, so I have plenty of them. So I'm just going to put them all in and see what we get. Now I'm using a pan much larger than necessary for this because I got a new stove and not all of my dye pans work on it because it's induction and requires stainless steel bottoms. So I'm going to pour in what I've got. You can see they're very dry. They've been in here forever. There's one with a label on it. I think I'll just take off. And again, I'm using a much broader pot than I need, but it's the only one that I can use that's a craft pot that will work on my new stove. So I think that's enough. I have more in this one, but we're going to save that for the next batch. So now I'm going to fill this up with water just above the material that's in here. Okay, so I've got 4 quarts of water in mine with the amount of material I had, and now I'm going to put my stove on and bring this to a boil. I'm also going to add about a teaspoon of baking soda. That's going to help deepen the color, or it should, so I'm going to give that a go. So here, I have about a teaspoon left in my little box here, so maybe a little bit more, maybe a tablespoon, but I'm going to add it now as it's beginning to boil. Put that in, give it a stir. Okay, so now it's coming to a good rolling boil, and I'm going to let it boil just for a second or two, and then I'm going to reduce the heat and let it simmer steadily for about an hour. All right, so I've got my simmer going, and now I'm going to go and grab some papers, collect some papers for dyeing. All right, so if you can see through let me wipe that off, see through all the steam, this is what we're looking at. It looks very dark, so this is going to be very interesting. Oh, sorry about the steam again, but you get the idea. And I'm going to go strain this and then start dyeing. I'm going to strain it into a strainer like this, and I'll probably stick some paper towel in it to catch even more debris. Not that I think it will matter much, but pour it into there, into another pot, bring it here, fill this tray, and then we'll get going. So, be right back. Okay, so here you can see it's been strained, and I have just the liquid underneath. And off we go to put it in the pan. Okay, so here's my goo, and it's just hot off the stove and strained. And I'm going to pour it into this smaller pan. Let's see how much we get there. And leave a little room for the paper to go in. That looks sufficient for now. If you'll notice, I am wearing gloves because this is dye and it's pink, and I really don't want pink hands. So I'm going to start with the multi-purpose paper because I really do want to get out of here, like out of this project. I'd like to wind up with the, oh, it's so pretty, the multi-purpose paper for my project. Now this is very hot still, so you want to be careful. You could probably let it cool, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to put these in one sheet at a time, stack them up, and again, it's hot, so if you want to use a tool, by all means. Okay, so that's enough for now. I'm going to get some other papers in there to make sure they get represented. So here's some dictionary pages. It does smell strangely like avocado, but not normal avocado. You do want to be careful. Like I just splashed and it went everywhere. So I put the glass tray down so it didn't melt my plastic tray, or the craft board. but I can see I kind of splashed it a little far. So maybe we want to keep our papers closer to our tray. Well, there's an idea. I'm really going to load this pan up, try and get the most out of all of this fluid. And I do want to go grab some cardstock. I should have done that already. I'll be back. I grabbed some flashcards and some bingo cards, some cream cardstock, and some typewriter paper that I happen to have. So let's add these to our bunch. I'm going to add the typewriter paper first because it might like some help being held down by the heavier cardstock. Oh, this is nice paper. Okay, so now let's get some flashcards. Let me grab another piece of wipey paper so I can grab them. Okay. It'll be interesting to see just how pink all of this comes out. Okay. So, still plenty of room. And I think I will do some of this fabric stuff. So let's see. We'll save that. Let's do these little guys. Let's see what happens if we put this in. Kind of uneven currently. More lace. And this is a whole different collection of various types from synthetic to cotton. So, well, that's kind of pretty, isn't it? Wow. Okay, I like that. I don't know how long I'll leave it in there, how dark it will get. Okay, I want to do this last. Here's some cotton. Let's give it a go. My little butterfly. That's a synthetic. Oh, picks it up very quickly there, huh? More lace. And this lace. Now, see, this is already, this guy over here is already pink, so who knows what will happen with that. Let's keep all that in there. Again, I wouldn't let it, the dye, if you splash it anywhere, I wouldn't let it sit too long in any one place, because who knows, it's dye, right? So I'm putting in the beautiful handkerchief, and it definitely changed color. Wow, it's definitely pink. Oh, splashes. So be aware of that, kids. It's going to splash. All right, I'm going to leave this in just for a few minutes. I don't want it really dark. I may, in fact, try and wash it out a little bit. So same with this. I'm going to put this in. And just let it sit for a bit. But I mean, it took the color so fast. I mean, it's like, yeah. So I'm gonna go grab another pan and, oh, let's do this one, right? I did say I was gonna do this one. This one's gonna soak up a lot of my juice though. Yeah, in fabric, this dye really goes at it. So I'm going to put this in that whole other pot where it will fit, because I still have the other pot where I didn't use all the liquid. All right, so I grabbed another pan. I'm going to take out some of these fabric-y things because they seem like they've already enjoyed turning pink, and I don't want them really dark pink. I want them aged and gentle and pretty. There we go. Oh, that is pretty. That is a nice color. Let's see how this one did. Yeah, same thing here. Very beautiful, light blush pink color. And then all my little tidbits here, which are all already fairly dark. And I don't need them to be a lot darker, assuming they'll dry somewhere near the color they are. Things often lighten or darken, but often lighten as they dry. So let's get, oh, there's my little butterfly. Oh, this is very, very pretty. This synthetic lace didn't do a lot, but it's still pinker than white. And then I've got cardstock now I'm going to stick in here. Let me just grab it all. This is that cardstock that does not take a good print. I think it's Park Lane from Joann's. I believe that's who it is. And I did a video on it that showed the difference between the prints of this cardstock and Michael's version. And unfortunately, this cardstock did not take a crisp print. It was muddy and awful. So, but there's other things we can do with it. Or I should go check on that tea towel that I put in that remainder liquid in the pot. I will go do that. Okay, so I'm going to let this sit, and I'm going to take this one, this handkerchief, and see if I can't rinse it a little. I think I'd like it a little lighter for my purposes. I mean, it's beautiful, is it not? But I'm going to try and just lighten it up a little. So stay tuned. So since I did not use a mordant on any of this fabric, it's just straight dipped in, I was able to very quickly just send it through a little bit of cold water. And because this dye is not color fast on its own, it's still pink. I don't know if you can see that. It is still pink, but it's much lighter than it was. And I think it's going to be, for my purpose, closer to what I want. So that will dry. These I'm going to let dry at this color because that's beautiful. But this one I want it just that little bit lighter. So now I'm going to decide how long to let these sit in here. And again, I might cheat and take some out and let them dry in phases, and we can get an idea of the level of color that that time creates. Put that in there for now. And then I'm going to take the dye liquid out. I'm going to keep it. Apparently you can freeze it. And I have plenty left over in the pot still. And I have this. And I'm going to strain it out, put it in a container, and then freeze it. If I understand correctly, you can defrost it, bring it back to a boil, and then work with it again. So we're going to let time do its magic, and I will report back. So I am going to take this off and replace it with another pan that I could put the larger sheets in, because based on this alone, I want to dye all my green ledger paper pinkish, which will actually just come out sort of a top color, because it's so much more attractive to me than the green. So I'm going to move this away. And this is why I put the glass mat down, because I assumed it would be easier to clean, or it will be easier to clean than my rubber one, or my self-sealing. Okay. So this is what was still left in my pot. And that will be enough to do some more. Plus I still have what I can reclaim from the pan I'm using. So let me go get some paper. So what do we have? We have these green ledgers, and they're not a green that I like, so I'm going to try and dye most of them. Now the only caveat here is once you do this, you need a place for them to dry. And I'm not sure I have such a place for all the paper I'm putting in here. So it'll be interesting, but that's a whole different problem. So maybe I'll just start with a few. I also want to do these maps I have. It's an old Vermont atlas. And again, it's just not my color green, and it's pretty happening. So I'm going to do them as folded still. I'll cut them apart later. I will open them up to make sure we can get some magic juice on the inside. There we go. All right. Okay, more of this icky green. Yeah, I've seen this happen before to this paper, so it'll be interesting to see how it actually dyes, because it does that with coffee as well. And the coffee, unfortunately, does not make enough of a change in color for my tastes. So we'll see. Oh, there are two pieces here. So again, if I could salvage this ledger paper into colors that suit me, I will be one happy girl. All right, so that's probably as much as I want to take in this pan, because again, I don't have enough places to dry it. I might have to pull out my window screens. I use those old-fashioned window screens sometimes to dry things because I can double them up. I'll show you what I mean. Should I do it? All right, so I'm going to dry this off for a second. I think I do want more of these big sheets. So I'm going to add some more to the tray, and it won't be any different than what you've seen me do just now. And we'll see what we can do with these modern papers to make them feel more vintage and like they have a story. So I've decided I want to take the papers out sooner than later. I like the color that they are, and I know they're going to dry a little bit lighter, but I think I'm going to like them sort of where they are. It's been a little bit more than an hour and a half-ish, I'm guessing. Anyway, but I thought I would show you my method for drying, which is I lay the papers out usually just on the sheet on top of a plastic dollar store tablecloth, but because I have so many in this batch, I don't know that they'll all fit. So I use these screens. I have a whole bunch of them because I have a very old house and there was a whole bunch of them when we moved in. So this allows me, obviously I can add a few more things to this, but it allows me to stack them up. So here I have a second tray I've put on top, a second screen, and now I'll load this one up. It still allows the air to circulate, and it helps me economize my space because we all only have so much of that. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get some gloves on, take out my papers, let them dry. I can't wait to share them with you. So you can see here, I'm on my third screen, and I already have all these papers drying in just this small space. But I wanted to point out that because I'm using the screen, but I'm also stacking some of the papers on top of each other, and that will sort of make that ghosted look, like an impression, a negative impression where the paper was, and that kind of invokes the idea that, you know, stuff had been stacked there and then a paper was removed and you see the ghosted image. And I like that a lot, so that's why I just piled a whole bunch. That's all cardstock. So let me take a few of these, and again, just sort of free form however they go, and that will be fine for those pages. Hi kids, here's what we've got. I'm pretty excited with the results. It's a couple days later and the paper's dried, and then I put them under a heavy thing so that they're flattened. And let's look at them. Let's see what's here. So first, let's look at the fabrics. This was the tea towel, and you can see it's a rich salmony color. Very, very pretty. I can use that for book covers and papers and all sorts of things. And then, also here, the embroidered border. Very nice. The cotton took like beautiful dye. The synthetic, I mean, it's lovely, but it was uneven. The dye kind of applied unevenly when it dried, but still lovely and aged and feeling. And all my little widgets here, my butterflies, they actually dried lighter than I expected. They were pretty dark. I dipped them in quickly and then pulled them out. And this one was already pink when it started. So anyway, they're beautiful and lovely, and they look aged and storytelling. And this is some really old trim, and it too took the dye a little bit unevenly, but I like it. I'm gonna have to press that out, but there you go. So that I can use this as a belly band or a trim. Same with this. This was beautiful and perfect. I'm really excited about it. The color is sort of mauve. All of these colors are sort of mauve, which makes me happy. It's not real pink. So just so you know, this was the handkerchief that I washed out some of the color in. And you can see much of the color did wash out, as I had hoped, because I wanted it lighter. But some of it stayed. And the edge came out beautifully. That's really what I was going for. This was a really bubblegum color pink and white, and it wasn't what I was going for in this project, so that was great. And then this cotton doily is really pretty. Now, I didn't use any mordant on any of these, so what I'm going to do just for fun and information is actually wet this and rinse it out. And I will let you know how much of the color rinses out. If you were going to do fabric dyeing and needed it to be more color fast, then I might recommend dipping it, soaking it in a little alum mordant, and letting that dry, and then putting the dye to it. But I'm going to rinse this and see, because I have more of these. I can make more. And as you know, I kept the dye bath from yesterday because I had some left over. That I could work with today, so I can dye it again if I want. So here are the papers. So I got these gorgeous little envelopes. Now you can see here, because I use the screen to dry some of my, let's see if I can't get this in focus. It's not gonna really, there we go. I don't know if you can see the tiniest little pattern of the screen here, which I happen to like because, again, it just gives more depth. But just so you know, if you use my technique of using the screen sometimes on some papers, and you never know which, you might get the screen pattern. So if that's important that you don't use that method. So here are my book pages from the Fern Field Guide, and they each dried a little bit differently, and I did have them sort of laid over one another so that they would create little ghosts. And I did have some purposeful puddling, meaning that I didn't wipe all the puddles away so that they would dry with some darker spots. And you'll see that more in the next batch. I did a couple of doilies, just threw them in. My suggestion would be don't leave them in too long, because when you take them out, they're like, I don't know, like a film. They're so thin and flimsy that they're hard to work with, but they definitely do a lovely job. So here's dictionary pages. And again, it's just so nice to have pages that aren't white and are ready to go. So here you can see I had a couple of different papers just laid over as they dried, and that left me some nice ghost remnants. So they all came out each a little differently, some darker, some lighter, and that just depended on how they laid on the drying sheet. So this is that cardstock. This cardstock has been sort of problematic for me since I got it. This is the Joann's version, 110-pound cardstock. And as you can see, everything else here is very dark, and this cardstock just didn't take the dye in any deep way. So that was just kind of interesting to me, that it's still light, as in much the same way it didn't take the printer ink cleanly. It kind of just all floated on the surface, and I think there's something in the sizing, in the production of this paper, that makes that happen. So here you can see some of the screen, and again, I like that because I usually want something a little grungy. Oh, in fact, look at that, look at that. Okay, so do you see what's happening? It's actually bubbling. So there's something in the process, the production, the manufacturing of this paper, because paper should not do that. So there is some sort of coating on it, or like layers, so to speak, but truly pressed paper. So I am going to cut that open later and see what's up with that. So again, another disappointment. Not disappointment, I can definitely use these. Let me hold that one out so I know to do that, slice that open and see what's in there. But again, I expected these to be as dark as the rest, and they weren't. So to be fair, now I should use the Michaels version that I do like, and try and get some dyed pages with that. So I'll go to now my flashcards, which are all beautiful, some bingo cards. And again, it's just nice to have some things in the stash that are already aged, and they're they almost look like leather. So that's really fun. These were my favorite thing, because if you remember, this was the color it was, which I know you're not seeing it very much here because of the way the light's adjusted, but it's pretty green, and new and fresh, and just not very inviting. And yet here we have it with color and of course stains. Remove this and get to some more of these. And I have all sorts of them. And this is useful to me. This is not, because the color is just so off for everything I do. But anyway, so I'm super excited by those. I did a lot of those, which is good because I'll cut them up and I'll use them as book pages and the like. And the same is true of this ledger sheet. It now has a color that I can work with, as opposed to this, which is that bright green, not really pretty. This to me is so much more useful. All right, so that was all my ledger paper. Did a lot of that too. Then the map. Okay, so the map came out great in terms of it's not this color anymore, but that green is still that green, and it seems there's nothing I can do about it. So I either will use it or I won't. It's just so bold and brash. This was the multi-purpose paper, which is going to make perfect journal pages. I'm just going to fold those up like so, and I've got a bunch of pink papers. Then I used an old ledger. Now this was interesting. You can actually get the original, or I've created this paper as a part of a kit, and you can see where the lines are, but the dye sort of removed all the lines. I mean, this is a ledger sheet here, and it removed all the lines, but it made it still a very interesting, and frankly, a color I even love anymore, because it's not as pink. And this was the tissue paper, or the typing paper rather, that I just pulled out and tried it, and I really loved it. I love it so much I already made a little bag out of it, because you know that crinkle feels like the right size, the right kind of paper. So I printed this on it and then made a bag, and that will go in the journal. So let me get rid of that light glare. Sorry about that. So in general, it was really a great process for me, and it was a lot of fun, and it produced a lot of beautiful things that I'll be able to work with in my journals. So a couple of things I want to share with you about my process. So when I save my avocados, I just throw the skins and the pit into a paper bag that sits on the back of my counter. Whoops. In season, I eat a lot of avocados. I also throw in these silica gel packs. I always keep them whenever they come in something. So I actually have a bunch of them. And I throw 1 or 2 in the bag, and that just helps with any possible mold issue. I've never had a mold issue. It's always been good, and I'm not really fastidious about cleaning my peel. I just scrape it, you know, reasonably and throw it in the bag. And again, this just sits on the counter with one of these in it. So that's just a little tip for you. And what else did I want to say? I did freeze the remainder, and I'll show you. So here it is. It's in a bag, and I just poured it into the bag. This was cooled already. I've been working with it, and I put it on a cookie sheet, threw it in the freezer. So now I can just leave it in the freezer like this for the next time I want it, which unfortunately would be today. So I shouldn't have frozen it because I wanted to do some more today. But I'll just thaw it out and do that. So there you have it. Thank you for being a part of my little avocado experiments. Again, never having done this before. I'll certainly soon be showing you the book that many of these pages are going into. And I will show you what this looks like. Whoops. What this fabric looks like after. Let me get that back into focus here. After I wash it, because I'm interested myself. So I'm going to do that soon. And again, it's all creative exploration. So go create, be awesome.